Headline, I saw this earlier, right? Payments from the government have become the fastest growing source of income for Americans, according to a new study. A report by the Economic Innovation Group, EIG, they titled it The Great Transformation Transfer. Get it? States that Americans, they tell us that the Americans have become substantially more dependent on government support, with the share of national income coming from transfer payments more than doubling over the last 50 years. Wow. Transfer payment programs include like Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, unemployment and disability, food stamps, and veterans benefits. Does this say something about us as Americans as a whole? Now, Benjamin Glasner, he's with EIG. He's an EIG economist and one of the report's authors. He said that it's unavoidable to look at the fact that transfer reliance has rapidly grown across the country, and it's something that we're going to need to deal with. According to the Federal Reserve data, government transfer payments increased from about, get a load of this, folks, $70 billion in 1970 to more than $6 trillion in 2020. Over 50 years, from $70 billion to $6 trillion. Now, that was during the COVID-19 pandemic. We've fallen back into only $4.3 trillion. So basically, till today, $70 billion to $4.3 trillion. Man. Now, according to the CIG report, if government transfer payments were spread evenly amongst all Americans, each American would get an annual payment of $11,500 in 2022. So the problem is, the more you redistribute, the greater the drop in income as a total, because there's always some slippage and somebody's got their hand out along the way. Now, we knew just the person to have this chat with. Please welcome to the show, Ms. Rebecca Walser. Rebecca, thank you very much for being on. This had your name written all over it, but This report, I've noticed this myself, because more and more people I know going on disability. I hate to say it this way, but sometimes I feel like this is an option for people that just don't think that they can make it. I mean, I hate to say that, but $70 billion to $4.3 trillion should tell us something, shouldn't it?
Wow, there's so much to unpack here, Scott. So I want to start off by saying, first of all, this number is not even exactly accurate. It is so underreported, Scott, because think about all of the money that is going right now from the federal government to the states and local city governments that are sanctuary cities that have brought in all of these millions of people that we've seen come into our country in the last 3.5 years. And I know that those plans, that those programs are federally funded because they are getting debit cards, phones, prepaid, all kinds of things. So these numbers are not even accurate. And what scares me and terrifies me is that we've drawn so many millions and millions of people to our country in the last 20 years on the promise of free benefit. So we need to talk about not only what U.S. citizens and residents, green card holders are getting, but also what are all the spending on this? Because let's not forget the fundamental point here, Scott. The government is the creator of nothing. They create nothing. So they only can transfer money by either taking it from people that are creating it, the producers, and tax them, which we know that they do a great job of that. But then they can create it because in 1974, Richard Nixon took us completely off of the gold standard, which means we have no tethering to hard assets. And when you have no tethering to hard assets, you become untethered. And you can start to think that I can go ahead and give you $3,000 for this, and I can pay for your utilities over here, and I can subsidize Section 8 over here, and I can bring in people over here and get there. It is. We have become everything that I always thought the European nations were as I was growing up as a little girl. I thought, wow, over here we get to work and make something of ourselves. Over there, we decide we can't do it. The government will take care of us for us. But the problem is eventually that the money does come, the chickens come home to roost, Scott, and we cannot indefinitely print. And that is the point that we are now at. We are at the point of the end of fiat currency. And the reason that we're at that point, for no other reason, I will just tell you, the BRICS bloc and the moving away from the West to this, away from the SWIFT system to other alternative systems, just with what the BRICS announced last week on October 24th, on Thursday, their payment system, their blockchain, all the things they're doing, they're giving countries like us a run for our money. And that's a problem because we only can print the money because we inflate it and we then send it, we export our inflation right now to the rest of the world as they buy our dollars. And that is no longer going to be the case as we have multipolarity coming into play. So I know I just went on a lot of things, but I'm just saying,
it's great.
This is the end of a country, a giveaway country that is just printing money like water we should all be so worried. And the 401k might look great today, but the reality is that this stock market is probably 150% overvalued, and it needs to come down substantially. So people should be aware that this is happening, that we are in a sea change of currency as we speak. It has already begun, and they need to really understand what's happening.
Man, oh, I need another 2 hours with you. You're exactly right. And you know, there's some basic things you lined up there. Number one, I think you can't have, I didn't mean to go this way with it, but it's a great way to go. You can't have an open border with open benefits, right? You can have an open, if you want to have an open border, you have to have a closed benefit system. Or if you want an open benefit system, you have to have a closed border. I mean, it's just that simple. But we've thrown that to the wind, by the way, too. So, and another thing is, last thing is, I'll say this. I started off with this. There's no way that our population has grown the equivalent of $70 billion to 4.3 trillion, right? And to your point, it just feels like there have been a lot of folks that have thrown their arms up and said, just let the government take care of me because I can't do it. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there that need their Medicaid, Medicare, and all that stuff, right? There's don't write in and tell me I'm a horrible person that way, but do take, I take into consideration that I know a lot of people that think that disability route, or if I can finally get the doctor to agree with my bad back, I don't have to work anymore, right? You know what I'm talking about. And that's what I don't like about it. And there has to be that in that number because it's grown so dramatically. And it's like universal basic income. People will let the government buy all their hopes and dreams so they can be taken care of for the last.
You know what? But really fast, Scott, really, it's more nefarious than that because it's the government systematically doing it from a very young age and getting people almost like a drug addiction, addicted to government stimulus. You make them apathetic, you take away their ability to think and do for themselves, and then they become addicted. So it is more nefarious. They have been doing this intentionally to get a population that's more dependent on them, for sure.
You're so right. Oh, my gosh. And we're going to do another whole show on this. Thank you very much.